Welcome back to Square Off. The list of election bills at the legislature is long. Most of those bills were spawned by Senate Republicans' partisan review of the 2020 presidential election results here in Maricopa County. And this week, those bills face a moment of truth in the state Senate. Do they have the votes to go any further than the Senate? Joining us is Hank Stephenson, a longtime Capitol insider. Hank and Rachel Leingang are the duo behind the ArizonaAgenda.com Substack, a daily briefing on the Arizona news you need to know. Welcome back, Hank.
Thanks for having me, Brahm.
You previewed what lies ahead in the agenda this past week. There are, 100 election bills in the Senate?
Somewhere in that range.
Somewhere in the Senate and the House. So give us a civics lesson. Why is the Senate the focus right now for these election bills?
Well, so a lot of the election bills that have been moving through Senator Kelly Townsend's Senate Government Committee, which has been just a weekly kind of conspiracy forum where people have taken their gripes about the 2020 election. And that committee has been passing all sorts of bills, a lot of them contradictory, some of them pretty extreme. And it's gone pretty much unchecked in that committee. There's a solid vote to get basically any kind of election fraud bill through that committee. But that's not to say that's the same situation that the full Senate faces. There are, enough Republicans who have not drunk the Kool-Aid that they're going to have to really hash out what, if anything, will make it out of the full Senate.
And the Senate is ahead of the House right now when it comes to moving election bills through the whole process, right?
Yeah, over in the House, Rusty Bowers has really not shown any interest in pushing election bills through his chamber. He's the Speaker of the House. So I think that, that the Senate has kind of had free reign on this issue for the last couple of months, and they're all coming to a head. And Senate Republicans are meeting on Tuesday in a closed caucus meeting to kind of hash out, okay, where is the caucus? All these bills are coming up for a vote. Should we put them up for a vote just to let them die in some cases to prove to the base that we are attempting to do things? Should we avoid that kind of, putting everything up on the board and watching them die scenario? Or, where is the membership on this?
Now, you talked about State Senator Kelly Townsend. She's also a congressional candidate. She's also one of the leading election deniers at the Capitol. She's pushed many of the bills. Give us a checklist, if you can, of maybe 3 bills that have been moving through that might make voters go, what's up with that?
Well, there's a bill to eliminate the early voting lists for all intents and purposes. That's the kind of thing where I think that there is no real shot of it moving through the Senate, but there's a lot of kind of smaller tweaks to election laws. And I think Republican senators are going to have to figure out what they want to pick a fight over. Looking at things like eliminating city and school districts' ability to hold all mail elections, or bar counties from using vote centers, which have been around for nearly a decade, have made elections a whole lot easier for those in charge of running it. Banning mail-in drop boxes, all sorts of different bills. And like I said, a lot of them are actually contradictory.
And many of these bills would have a big impact on the way we vote. And I do want to be fair. There are some bills with bipartisan support that do help voters. For example, a way for smaller counties to set up systems that help you track your early vote. We have that in Maricopa County. A lot of other counties don't. That is valuable to voters. Now, let's take a closer look at the Senate, the state Senate. Republicans have just a 1-vote majority. A tie vote kills a bill. Who are the senators you're keeping an eye on who might put the brakes on some of this legislation?
Well, I think we've been keeping our eye on Paul Boyer. He is not running for re-election. He told me a couple of months ago, so he kind of doesn't have anything left to lose, and was the 1 vote against holding the County Board of Supervisors in contempt. So he's already pretty much displayed his feelings on the big lie. There's also a lot of kind of sane conservative Republicans, J.D. Mesnard, T.J. Shope, even Michelle Ugenti-Rita at times has pushed back against some of these big lie-inspired bills. So I think those are probably the most likely. And I think a lot of this will come down to kind of if people know that these bills are ultimately going to fail, we might see more Republicans voting for them just to kind of show the base, I did something, I voted for this, while knowing all the while that the bill doesn't have 16 votes.
You mentioned House Speaker Rusty Bowers and his influence on the election bills in his chamber. What about Senate President Karen Fann? Does she support this legislation? Could she apply the brakes?
That has been kind of a tale of two leaders. While Rusty Bowers has, put on the brakes from his position as House Speaker and just not assigned bills to committees, or in one case assigned a bill to every single committee that the House has to offer just to make a point, Karen Fann has not done that. She has been much more, I guess, drawn in by the conspiracy that the election was stolen, as we saw through, the last 10 months of comments that she's made regarding the Senate election. It's worth noting the Senate audit. It's worth noting the House did not go along with that audit. So I think that really tells you kind of the flavor of each chamber, where from the top in the House, these election bills are getting quashed early on. In the Senate, that's not happening. They're all going to come to a vote, or at least a good number of them are going to come to a vote.
All right. Hank Stephenson, thank you so much for your insight and breaking that down.
Anytime, Brahm.